In this video, let's start with understanding what data mappers are. So data mappers are one of the primary components in OmniStudio's service management layer. It is a mapping tool that enables you to read, transform, and write Salesforce data. In every web application, system needs to extract the data from the database, and as user updates some of these values, then the same needs to be updated back to the database. Also, when a new record is created, the same needs to be inserted in database. So for all of these operations, we use data mappers. The main responsibility of data mapper is to provide the data to front end of the application, that is OmniScript or the FlexCard. In our demo module, the OmniScript invoked data mapper to fetch the patient detail and displayed it on the screen. So to retrieve the data from database, OmniStudio used data mappers. Also, when the user updated rating or annual revenue value and clicked on the update patient button, then OmniScript invoked another data mapper to update these value in the database. Since data mappers are all about database operations, so let's understand some basics of database and how different operations are done on the Salesforce object stored in the database. So here I'm representing account as well as contact table, and you can have many more table. So you can assume that this is the database where we have account and contact table. In Salesforce, every database table is represented as an object. So every Salesforce object, be it a standard object like account, contact, opportunity, or a custom object that you would have created for your org like student or teacher object, everything is nothing but a table in database. So here we can say that account is the table name in database language, but in Salesforce, account is nothing but the object. Similarly, ID, name, country are the fields of this account table. Similarly, these columns represent fields of the object. So when we create an object, we can see some of the fields already available, and we also create custom fields. So those are the fields available here, and here these are the 10 records available in this account table. Similarly, we have contact table or contact object, and we have these fields plus these records within them. To perform any operation such as read, create, update, or delete operation on database tables, we use structured query language or SQL in simple terms. In Salesforce, database tables are nothing but object, so we call these operations as Salesforce Object Query Language or SOQL queries in simple term. Now, as an OmniStudio developer, we don't need to learn how SQL or SOQL queries are written, as all of that is taken care by OmniStudio. But it is good to understand it little bit so we understand how in the backend all of this is working. One important point about low code tool is no code or low code solution does not mean that these tool does not require any code at all. It only means that we as a developer do not need to write the code. It is the OmniStudio or the tool which does that for us, and for us it's just drag and drop configuration, but these configuration converts to code in the backend. So in our next video, we will create the data mapper, and you will see that we are just creating it using the drag and drop configuration. But at the end of the day, when these data mappers execute, they convert it back to a SOQL query. But we are not going to write the SOQL query. It is the data mapper that will write the SOQL query for us during the invocation. Now this is the account object or account table. If I have to read some records from it, then we have to tell the database, let's say this is the database. So SQL or structured query language says that to read the information from the database, you need to tell which table or which object from where data needs to be read, because in the database you will have hundreds of objects. So we will say that from account object or from account table, I want to query ID, name, country, or maybe other fields that you have. That is what I want to query. So if you write this much, then you are saying that from account table, give me the value for ID, name, country. And so at this point, the database will give you all of these 10 records because we did not filter out anything. So the query becomes very simple. We are saying that from account object, give me ID, name, and country. So these are the fields that I'm selecting, and this is the object that I selected. So there are two information that we passed. We passed the name of the object and what are the fields that we want to retrieve. Now, instead of reading the entire table, if we only want to read the accounts which are from United States, which are this one, and this one, then we will say that from account object, select ID name country, where country is equal to United States. So this where part is nothing but the filtering that we are telling to database. So we are informing database that I do not want all of the account records. I only need accounts where country is equal to United States. So these are the accounts that it will return us back. Similarly, if you want to retrieve the first 5 accounts only, then you will say that from account object, select the fields that you want and then put a limit as 5. So when you put a limit as 5, then the database will pick up first record, second record, third record, fourth record and fifth record. That's it. Because the limit is 5, it will only retrieve the first 5 records. Similarly, if you want to retrieve the 5 records but from the bottom, which means that you want to take the record from bottom, let's say this is ordered by created date and you want to retrieve 5 records but they should be from down, then you will say that from account object, retrieve the fields that I want. Limit will be 5, but it should be ordered by created date in descending order. So in that case, it will pick up this record, this record, this record, this record and fifth record. The moment it reaches the fifth record and we had put a limit as 5, so it will only retrieve these 5 records. So this is how we communicate with the database. We just tell which table to work on or which object to work on, what are the fields that we want to retrieve, what are the different conditions with which it should filter out the table, if we want to limit the number of records that it is about to send us, and if we want to order it based on some fields in some direction, whether in the ascending order or descending order. So by giving these many information, we ask database to give us the information back. Again, in Data Mapper, we do not have to do all of this. We do not have to write the SOQL queries, but we have to communicate this to database using the drag and drop features. We will see different options which are available to us to tell which object to select, which fields to select, what are the different conditions that it should add, whether it should add the limit clause or order by clause or not. And all of this we will do from the point and click point of view, and we will see that when the final result is displayed, the actual query is also there, which is the final SOQL query. Similarly, if we want to insert a record in the table, in that case also we will tell database that in the account object or in the account table, I would like to insert a record. So we need to pass the name and the country. ID is something that Salesforce generate itself. So only information that we need to provide is name of the object. What are the fields? What are the mandatory fields value that we should pass? If country is not a mandatory field, then you can simply pass the name and it will insert a record here. And you will see that a ID is generated. Similarly, if you want to update an existing record, then you will utilize the ID field of that. So let's say that we want to update this record. In that case, we will say that update the account record and whatever the value that you want to update. Let's say you want to update the country from UK to US, then you have to pass the ID as well. So using this ID, the database will understand that we want to update this record. So that is how you will perform the update operation. So these are the different ways with which we communicate with the database in terms of fetching the information from database or to inserting or updating the record in the database. Let's go back to our presentation. Now let's understand the different types of data mapper. We will be having examples for each of these types, but in this video, let's just understand the definition of each of them. So the first one is OmniStudio Data Mapper Turbo Extract. So the usage of this is gets data from a single Salesforce object. So if you have a very simple requirement to retrieve data from just one single object and all the parent of that object, then you can go for the turbo extract. So it works with one object and it can also retrieve data from the parent records, not from the child records. So turbo extract is very straightforward one, and this is what we will see in our next video. The second one is OmniStudio Data Mapper Extract, gets data from one or more Salesforce object. So this one is a bit complex than Turbo Extract and more powerful than Turbo Extract. As you can work with multiple objects, you will get more customization in terms of creating formula fields, in terms of how the output field should look like and all of that. So OmniStudio Data Mapper Extract is something that we will be creating more often. Turbo Extract is something that we will be creating if we are having a very simple requirement to just retrieve the data. So next one is OmniStudio Data Mapper load. So this mapper saves data to one or more Salesforce object by updating Salesforce record, creating Salesforce record, or migrating CSV data into Salesforce records. So when we have to insert a record or update a record or insert bulk data at once, or update bulk data at once, or maybe insert data into multiple objects, then we will utilize the data mapper load. And the final one we have is OmniStudio Data Mapper transform. So this data mapper is used to manipulate the data or transform it from one type to another. And we will see in our examples how we can utilize this type of data mapper. These are basically takes one form of data and converts it into different form, or just manipulates it, maybe add more formula fields or add logic to create more data out of the existing data. So for all of that operations, we will use the OmniStudio Data Mapper transform.